Welcome to Ground Control. Your RC tip today is prepping your servos and getting them set up to put in your aircraft and getting the control arms completely centered up on the servo, because a good percentage of the servos that I buy, when I receive them, you get the servo set in a neutral position, and then you put the control arm on them, and the control arm is angled in one direction or another. You just can't get them centered up. The control arm will not fit on the spline completely centered with the servo. So there's a way to do that. First of all, when I prep my servos, of course you want to test your servos after you first buy them, and I have a servo and ESC tester that I use for that purpose. I'm not going to go over that in this tip video, but there's a link to that specific video. It's on one of our Needful Things videos that shows a demonstration of the servo tester / ESC tester. It's an essential tool to have, so I suggest that you guys pick one up. There's a link to that video in the show notes. Also, I've got a receiver hooked up to this, because what we're going to be doing is going to require doing it through the transmitter. So what you can do, if you have a servo like I have right now, where you put the control arm on it and it will not center up, is you can do this via sub-trim. And I will put up on the screen right now, I took this excerpt from the deviation manual. I have a Devo 8S transmitter, run the deviation firmware, and that describes exactly what the sub-trim will do. The sub-trim will reset the center point of your servo. So you can use sub-trim to square up your control arm without losing any of the movement from one direction or the other. You will still have the full range of motion. You can center up your servo control arm and still have full range of motion using sub-trim, so that when you put it in your aircraft and connect your control surfaces, you will have symmetrical movement up and down on your control surface. You're not going to lose any movement in one direction or another while doing this. Now, there is a caveat to that. From what I've read on the forums, there are some transmitters and some protocols that do not properly implement sub-trim. So make sure that you check your documentation on what protocol you're using, what transmitter you're using, that your sub-trim works the same way that it's implemented as it should be. So let's go ahead and power this up. Turn on my transmitter here. Should get a bind. And I have this right now on my elevator channel. Hopefully I've got this set up so that you can see the control arm on the servo and also see the menu on the transmitter. Let me bring this down a little bit. Okay, so you can see that on my elevator channel I have the servo activated, and hopefully you can also see that this control arm is off center, pointing in this direction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my elevator channel, and in my elevator channel there's a sub-trim, and there are arrows in both directions. It will increment by 0.1 and it'll go to -50 and +50. So let's go ahead, and if you watch the control arm, you can see it moving right now. You see it? Okay, now let me move it back the other way. I'll move it back to 0 so that you can see exactly what the servo is doing. Okay, now I'm going to go back the other way and center it. And what I found is that 14 will perfectly square that control arm up on that servo. So I'm going to click OK, exit out of my mixer menu. And so now that servo is in the neutral position. I have the control arm completely squared up on it, and now that servo is ready to go in the aircraft. So there's a quick and easy way to center up your servos that will reset the center position so that you're not going to lose any travel in either direction. So I hope that helps you. I know that will take some frustration out of it when you get a new servo and you just can't get the control arm on the servo so that it's pointing straight out. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please give a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to check out our Patreon site. We have a lot of free content there as well. And I will see you in the air.